Cloud gaming has been stagnant now for a couple of years. With Google pulling out of the race and Xbox leaving their solution to fend for itself while they try to buy Activision Blizzard, Sony and Nvidia have quietly plodded on, with the odd big news article here and there, but nothing to really write home about for either. This has allowed some new starters to enter the space and offer similar or alternative solutions. So having looked at only 5 services regularly in the past, I think it's about time I spread my wings a bit. So welcome everybody. My name is Doragon, and this is my review of Boosteroid in 2023. The first question I had when coming into this video was, what is Boosteroid? And honestly, Boosteroid do not make it easy to find out. Their FAQs say it is a cloud gaming platform that provides 2-click access to high-end video games. And that statement doesn't clear the situation up at all. There's nothing on the FAQs about the compatible game library, what the type of service is, what payment options are available, i.e. credit card, Google Play credits, PayPal, etc. for the recurring monthly or annual subscription. They do say that you have to buy the games elsewhere to be able to play them on Boosteroid, and they say that you can see a full list of the games available on the platform. But you have to sign up to Boosteroid to see said list. It's not just on the FAQs. Which means you've therefore already got an account before you even know what the service is. I personally found their website and FAQ information on what the service is, what it does, and how it operates incredibly frustrating and underwhelming. If I weren't making this review, I would have stopped my involvement with the service right then and there, because you cannot convince me to buy something when you cannot tell me what it is. After some further investigation, after being forced to sign up for an account and looking through the setup, I can say that Boosteroid is like a souped up version of GeForce Now. At least, in some regards. It grants you remote access to a gaming PC that you can install and play games on via a custom user interface. It offers access via a Chrome or Opera browser on any device compatible with said browsers. It offers native apps on Windows, Linux, Android phones, tablets and TVs, Tizen and WebOS TVs, and macOS. There is no native iPhone or iPad support though, due to Apple's incredibly dumb policies. However, installing either Chrome or Opera browsers will allow you to access the browser-based service on these devices. Quite a wide range of device options then. You can use mouse and keyboard for input, a Sony PlayStation DualShock 4, a Microsoft Xbox 360 or Xbox One controller, the Logitech Gamepad F310, 510 or 710, and they say others can be used, but there are no compatibility guarantees. The service's high-end video games render at 1080p and 60 frames per second. To achieve this, it is recommended that you have a wired 15 megabit per second broadband connection with a recommended ping of no greater than 20 milliseconds. Not sure how I'm doing that on an officially supported Android phone or tablet without buying additional expensive accessories. Thankfully, Boosteroid do offer a tool to test your connection and advise if it is reliable enough to use their service before you pay up for it. Unlike GeForce Now, there are no tiers here. Boosteroid is a one-option type of service. Pay €9.89 per month to play, or buy it annually for a discount of around 10%. There's no free option, no comparative Ultimate option with all the mod cons. Ultimate here just gets you that discount. This is an 8th generation home console level experience for a singular monthly fee. There are no queues to join before playing, unless there is a massive new release, and no limits on your playtime. The main servers and the research and development team for Boosteroid are situated in Ukraine. This is no negative thing, however, it's worth noting that if Putin's tyrannical invasion were to unfortunately get worse for the Ukrainian people, there would be a likelihood of service interruptions while the staff flee to safety and look for new server locations. And without going hands-on with Boosteroid, that is about as much information as I can gather. As we get into the hands-on section of the review, I may be able to expand further, but I do feel it's important to judge the service on this information that Boosteroid themselves supply to explain what it is, especially as a new user myself. With that all laid out, how am I feeling about the service before going hands-on with it? Well, I'm not inspired by Boosteroid thus far, but it isn't a write-off for me either. 1080p 60fps is kind of par for course in cloud gaming. It's what Xbox and PlayStation offer, it's more than what many of the Switch cloud games run at, and it surpasses much of what is on Luna. It was only Stadia previously, and now a bit of GeForce Now, going a bit beyond that. While a tad disappointing to me, especially with their marketing 1080p 60fps as high-end video games, I didn't really expect anything more coming into it. The double charge business model, though, is something that I hate. I've mentioned it in multiple GeForce Now videos previously, but I don't feel that I should pay for a cloud gaming service to then have to go and purchase games outside of that service to actually make use of it, that I'll then lose access to if I stop paying for the service or it goes under. It'd be like buying game discs at Target, Big W or Game UK for a home console that won't be able to play those games if you stop paying a monthly fee to Walmart. That said, of all the providers of cloud gaming solutions that I have tried thus far, Boosteroid is the cheapest that is currently available, judging it solely on the monthly fee here.
It's 20 pence per month less than GeForce Now.
It's nearly £3 cheaper than Game Pass Ultimate per month, and nearly £6 cheaper than PS Plus Premium for a month. Luna has only just launched here in the UK, and even that's more expensive, though only by 18 pence, so literal pennies. The narrative changes slightly if you look at annual costs, but even then, Boosteroid's subscription is the cheapest over a year. Boosteroid has some huge games as well, not available on any other cloud gaming platform that I have yet tried, and it has wide compatibility. Add in that, as I've been writing this script, they've signed a promise agreement with Microsoft to bring Xbox PC games natively to the service by June 2023, though with the workaround they are already playable on the service. It adds even more compatibility to Boosteroid's available library. But the head office kept moving through 2022. Possibly understandably as a Ukrainian company, but at one point it was stated as being in the United Arab Emirates, which have incredibly lax data usage and sale laws, causing understandable concern. It is currently, however, based in Germany, and therefore subject to the EU's strict privacy and data policies. And finally, having the Starship Enterprise as the logo is a big win for me personally. Going in then, I'm feeling very middle of the road. So here's how I'll approach this review. I will be using Boosteroid as a paying customer. It is £8.81 per month in the UK, and this is what I have paid for my testing. I will not be manipulating or setting my Wi-Fi connection or ports. This will be to simulate the average user's experience who likely will not know to do this, how to do this, or doesn't want to do this simply to play a game. If the service cannot perform under these very standard customer parameters, it is a service provider issue and not a user issue. Service performance, availability, usability, compatible games, cost of setup, synchronization process, and more will aim to be critiqued if I'm able to access and use all aspects. I will also make comparisons to other cloud services and hardware. My final thoughts will be mine and mine alone, as a paying customer, as a gamer, and as a non-PC user, someone who is squarely in the crosshairs of Boosteroid's marketing. Boosteroid do not know I am making this review, do not get copy approval, and will see this for the first time right alongside you. And if you do enjoy this video, a sub to the channel would be a huge boost. Boosteroid, for me. So what has my experience been this last month? Honestly, not good. Through a myriad of different things, Boosteroid has left a bad taste behind it. Sign up was easy enough. Enter an email address, create a password, and click an authentication link. While forced upon you to see if the available service is good enough to pay for, I appreciate the ease here. Speaking of playing, if games like Elden Ring, Metal Gear Solid 5 and Hogwarts Legacy are on your list of must-plays, you have to pay the subscription to play via Boosteroid. But there are some key payment type omissions here. There is no option to pay via Apple or Samsung Pay, despite updated FAQs saying different, and most unimpressively, no PayPal option. All of these services offer additional user protection when buying products online, but Boosteroid accepts none of them. They accept standard credit or debit cards, Google Pay, making the lack of Apple and Samsung Pay more shocking, and something called PaySafeCard that I have never encountered before. So make sure you are happy using any of these payment methods before going ahead. Before paying, you can also check your connection. As Boosteroid don't offer refunds on a bad experience, a legally questionable practice in Europe, it's worth using their baked-in tool to see if the service will actually work for you. I performed a test at peak times, as far away from the router as I could get, to simulate a worst-case scenario for me. And Boosteroid reckoned it would be an okay experience on a 2.4 GHz connection, even offering advice on how to possibly make it better. I do, however, question the reliability of that test when alternative options, such as the industry-trusted Ookla speed test, state double the speeds and half the ping, even on the same frequency connection. Still, however, it is a good tool for the average user. After this, it then came time to play for me. With cloud services, I like to test games that I am familiar with. It means I can notice differences in the experience nearly instantly. With many thousands of hours in Destiny 2, I thought this would be a good place to start. Except for the fact that no matter what I did, either in the browser or in the Android app, on my officially supported tablet and phone, the game wouldn't load. I encountered an error message saying couldn't connect to Destiny servers, make sure the latest version is installed. Now, part of Boosteroid's marketing is that it has no downloads and no waiting for patches to install. But I immediately ran into a scenario where this claim wasn't true. The situation was compounded by Destiny 2 loading and playing flawlessly on both PlayStation and GeForce Now's free tier immediately after Boosteroid failed. There is also no obvious way for a paying customer to prompt a software update if you do encounter such a situation. My first impressions of the service, therefore, were awful. And they weren't improved by trying other games over the course of the next week. This gameplay here is my first time actually playing on the service, in A Plague Tale: Innocence. The game loaded this time, which granted is a low bar to clear, but a huge step up over the first experience. The graphics are heavily compressed in that 1080p resolution, creating the blocky artifacting you're seeing in this gameplay, and the input lag is horrific. You can see how much I am turning in this short gameplay. That was to feel how bad the lag was. To put it simply, I couldn't play a game like this unless it was a turn-based RPG. The lag was present in everything I tried. Tomb Raider went as far as having visual and audio lag as well. The audio I can generally cope with, but visuals stopping, then fast-forwarding to catch up during gameplay is a terrible experience. Splitgate, I couldn't compete at all. I knew where the enemy was, how to take the shot and win the gunfight, but the input just wouldn't let me get that far. The most I could do was look my foe in the eye as they killed me, and often I'd fly past even that with the lag being so bad. The only kills I was able to get were on people who were completely unaware of my presence. A situation you cannot rely on in a PvP FPS title. Wondering if my connection status had changed, I ran the Boosteroid connection test again. This is where things started to get weird. I ran it initially on the Android app. It's what I was playing in at that moment in time, despite switching back and forth during my tests. On the app, Boosteroid said it had 46 megabits per second download and a ping of 24 milliseconds, which didn't sound right when I'm paying for full fiber gigabit broadband. So, I ran Ookla on the same device, in the same location, same network, etc. immediately after, and that stated 787 megabit per second download and a 14 millisecond ping. Out of curiosity, I then tried Boosteroid's speed test via the browser, and that stated 263 megabits per second download and a 19 millisecond ping. There seems to be limits on what Boosteroid can achieve in terms of speeds through different routes. The Android app seems heavily throttled at all times, meaning I therefore cannot recommend it at all. But even the browser is well below what my connection actually was at the time, and seems to max out at that 263 megabit per second mark, which is incredibly disappointing. Now granted, this was all using the Chrome options, so I also tried Opera, and well, that had its own set of issues as you're seeing here. This is a huge problem for Boosteroid. I'm on one of the best available internet service provider connections in the UK for domestic properties, and I'm struggling to use the service. Yes, I'm on mobile devices, but remember that marketing line? Now any device is a top gaming station. That just hasn't been the case in my experience. Yes, Boosteroid has run games on my phone and tablet, but they are a long way from being a usable experience, let alone a top experience. When you then add in Chromecast with Google TV and smart TVs, where the situations are even worse than on my phone or tablet, I found it difficult to keep playing at all. The gameplay, user interface, and general user experience was just that bad for me. But persevere I did, and unfortunately this perseverance highlighted further issues with the service. Staying with the Chromecast and smart TV options here, the application navigation once you've chosen a game is awful. The background footage here is me trying to launch Tomb Raider on the Chromecast with Google TV using the D-pad for this vertical list of options. What Boosteroid requires though, and doesn't tell you up front, is that you need to utilise the right stick on the controller as a cursor, because for some reason the service won't just launch you directly into a game when you choose said game from the custom user interface. Instead, you land in Steam, Epic, Ubisoft & Co, and then have to navigate around these PC applications via a TV interface. It's poor design and implementation, and it is so unresponsive that you often overshoot what you're aiming for, so end up taking tiny steps with the cursor to eventually start your game, which is then the same laggy experience, even on my smart TV with an Ethernet cable attached. There was not a single moment of smooth gameplay. That landing in Epic, Steam, etc. before a game was bad on even my tab and phone, as it wouldn't work via either mouse input or direct touch. You instead have to activate a virtual mouse, which doesn't then work with an actual mouse. That requires pressing of the mouse buttons via the bottom left overlay, but you don't get a cursor to show where the mouse is. Given that this experience was on every single session, every single game, every single device, it was just infuriating. One thing I didn't expect when playing on Boosteroid though, was to have to quit gameplay because of physical discomfort. Now I've put in mammoth sessions with this design of and specific controller, and never had an ergonomic issue with it. But via Boosteroid, it hurt my hands and forearms. This is due to whatever the controller rumble settings are on Boosteroid. They seriously need to be toned down. They don't coincide with the gameplay on screen to start with, but that is most likely due to the terrible lag throughout my experience. But they then last far too long, and Boosteroid uses the big rumble motors for all feedback. In a game like Destiny 2, that eventually did start working, that means the rumble is going at full pelt permanently. And I just couldn't physically take that. I'm not sure anybody can. This situation isn't game specific either. I had it in every game I tried, and after a mere 30 minutes, I felt like my arms were being shaken out of their sockets. So I thought I'd try mouse and keyboard instead, an officially supported input method, which just didn't work at all. My keyboard is a hardware connected one. It connects directly to the tablet via magnetic docks on the bottom edge, and Boosteroid does not recognise that there is a keyboard there. It jumps via space, for example, but the vitally important things, WASD to move around for example, are recognised for only a fraction of a second, and if the button is held, nothing happens at all. Even connecting an external keyboard via a USB dongle, a direct connection, had the same outcome. I also had to click the left mouse button down to move the mouse around at all while in game. So much for mouse and keyboard compatibility then. Every single moment of my time with the service was full of constant, silly niggles. If it weren't big things like input lag or the input not working at all, it was little things like the connected Bluetooth mouse not working in Steam, or the fact that I had to install the same update every time I launched Destiny 2. Something the marketing said would never happen, and given it was the same update every single time, was infuriating. The back button kept taking me right back to the website or app's first page every time, rather than the previous page, and it only displayed Xbox face buttons, even with a DualShock 4 connected. It was a relentless list of niggles, bugs, poor design, and problems. In conclusion then, my experience has been awful. Everything I have tested, every network, every device, every input, it's all been bad. Not even subjectively. Objectively, it's been bad. So bad has the experience been, I've been unable to even try certain features, such as their direct YouTube streams, mouse and keyboard input, many of the free-to-play games. And while there are good aspects to the service, it has to actually work, i.e., allow you to navigate the interface without challenge and play a game as if it were a console or PC in your home, to actually be considered as anything other than bad. I've had flawless cloud gaming experiences in this house and surrounding area on the exact same devices since 2020. Not once in any other service have I encountered input lag like I have in 2 services in the last month, Luna and Boosteroid. Yes, xCloud offers screen tearing and refreshes, but I can at least play the game through that. Boosteroid is completely unplayable from my month-long experience. It's not worth the subscription fee and cannot be recommended at all. It should be obvious from the type of content I make that I love cloud gaming. Or at least, I used to. When every provider was innovating, when every experience was clean and comparable to a hardware experience, I honestly thought we were on the verge of the next paradigm shift for the gaming industry. But a mere 3 years after those initial thoughts, we're in a much worse position where underbaked, underrealized, and underimplemented ideas are launched as full services and somehow celebrated. I do still think it is the future of the gaming industry, but the more I try in the early 2020s, the more disillusioned I become with all of the offerings, and the further off that future feels. Stagnation and regression have been the words of the last 18 months in cloud gaming, and Boosteroid does nothing to change that narrative. If anything, it just further reinforces it. It is literally a GeForce Now clone service that doesn't operate even half as well. And I don't like GeForce Now. Stadia was my first conscious experience of cloud gaming, and it blew me away. But that experience has not been matched by anyone else since. From device and network availability through to a solid performance on high latency, low bandwidth connections, it was a user experience just like that of a home console for the vast majority of people who tried it. Now, I'm told I can no longer be untethered and play anywhere. Instead, I have to connect an Ethernet cable to devices without an Ethernet port, be locked to a single location, and pray to the cloud gaming gods that the session is at least usable on this occasion. Boosteroid promised 2-click access to high-end video games and to turn any device into a high-end gaming station. It delivered on none of those points in my testing. While costing £8.81 per month to play, that price doesn't definitively include any games. You can synchronize free-to-play games, sure, but for everything else, you have to purchase the game on a different website and service. So while a current-gen home console costs £479 at the time of writing, the same as 4 years usage of Boosteroid, with the experience of Boosteroid, it makes that cost of the hardware seem completely reasonable for a gaming experience that actually works, and it does so easily, every single time, no matter where you are in the world. My overwhelming feeling, though, is that I've been lied to by Boosteroid. They made big claims and promises in their marketing and sign-up material, and they haven't delivered on any of them. I realise that everyone is going to have a different experience based on their internet, distance from servers, gaming habits, and so on. But should we actually accept that? Should we defend companies offering less than the bare minimum and celebrate them for it? Should we decry any voice that isn't overwhelmingly positive because of their experiences? I personally don't think so. When a service expects upfront payment from the customer, with no route for a refund if that service does not deliver on its promises, the absolute minimum that I expect in return is the deliverance of that service as advertised. If a company cannot or will not deliver that, then frankly, they have no right trading at all. And Boosteroid currently falls into that category. If you've enjoyed this video, take a look at this one too, where I review Boosteroid's closest competitor, GeForce Now. And don't worry, they don't get off lightly either. Otherwise, thank you for your viewership, and until next time, have yourselves a fantastic day. And take care.